The fastest way I ever lost 300 iRating was once I got my A license. I thought once I got my A license, I had finally made it. A safety rating really didn't matter anymore because you could really only gain iRating. That mindset completely changed how I raced, and honestly, it made me a worse driver. So once I finally reached my A license, I really did feel like accomplished, and everyone should. It's not a necessarily easy thing to do. There's different ways to get there, and I didn't do it the way that I think some people do it, of starting in the back and just not getting incident points and running laps. I wanted to kind of earn it the harder way, and I always tried doing qualification and qualifying up front the best that I could. For me, that worked better and helped me also work on my racecraft and stuff. But once I got my A license, I was like, well, I don't really need to worry about that anymore. And then I only started focusing on iRating. And this led to me doing a bunch of aggressive driving, uh, and thought that aggressive driving was going to equal better improvement and like faster, like finding that speed. So I really kind of stopped caring about incident points and was like, oh, no big deal. Another race I won't get any and I'll gain it back. So I finally kind of felt like I unlocked the real racing part of iRacing, and I stopped kind of focusing on becoming a better overall driver and started focusing only on gaining positions. And what really happened is this caused me to start more overdriving entries, trying to brake later than everyone else, forcing passes, and
You guys are fucking
racing too
horrible.
hard too early. This was like kind of more driving emotionally and seeing someone faster coming up behind, trying not to let them by, which then led to more incidents, me not finishing races, and then losing iRating. I actually think I lost more than 300 iRating during this time, but additionally, not just losing my iRating, I did lose my A license and ended up going down to all the way down to C license. It was kind of like a hard realization for me. I was trying to gain everything on quarter entry, instead of trying to set people up over multiple laps, seeing what they were doing wrong. I was kind of forcing the moves immediately, being like, yeah, I passed them. And then 5 laps later, there they go past me because they had better tires. The actual problem and the kind of main point, I wasn't actually improving. I was just taking more risks, making more mistakes, and becoming more inconsistent in my racing. And I wasn't really getting faster, I was just driving riskier. And this even led to an incident between one of my buddies. And that moment was kind of the realization of, I've been driving very aggressively. I've lost a bunch of iRating. And it was kind of one of these things where I felt like, okay, I should be up here and I should be driving with these people, which led to me not wanting to let them by and over focusing on just a single position. When in the end, even if I let a couple of people by, I will probably end up being able to go past
Sitting in the
them,
same
or even if I
position.
don't, it's no big deal. That's just where I finish. So one thing that is very important is the races where I did actually finish well driving like this. It didn't outweigh or help me in the fact that there was 3 races in the place of that one good race that then made my iRating drop more. So kind of a realization point was the drivers that were consistently beating me weren't necessarily faster than me. They were just cleaner, and they were calmer, smarter, and they were just more consistent overall. They weren't necessarily making these insane moves of, diving to the inside, making it stick, and then driving off. They were just making fewer mistakes in the overall race. And that's what really matters more in talking about tire management and overall long run speed because I've always actually been pretty good at like hot lapping per se, and very good at qualification, but I've been now realized able and starting to translate that to long run speed and tire management, being patient and just being consistent overall, not making those mistakes, overdriving the corners just because I want to get past them right now. As much as people like to not like the iRating system, the iRating is usually a byproduct of good racecraft. So the safety rating system and iRating system do kind of go together and allow a very good kind of indicator of how consistent someone has been over, you know, a long period of time. There comes a point where uh, you can like farm the system going into races with buddies and trying to, you know, just gain iRating because you're in a bunch of lower strength of fields and stuff like that. You know, there is some of that, but overall, I think it's a pretty good system. So something that actually helped me was working on consistency, surviving races. You know, I stopped trying to win every corner. Sometimes finishing 5th is better than, you know, risking 18th, because that's where you're going to finish if you overdrive corners or get into someone, cause an incident, and cause a crash. Surviving the races is really the most important thing, finishing the top 10 all the time. You're almost always going to gain iRating, especially if you're, you know, below 4K. You know, when you start getting into those much higher strength of fields, uh, it allows you to, you know, finish 10th and you still gain 20 iRating. The issue is when you get to those lower strength of fields and you're the number 1, number 2 car, then you really have to finish, you know, very high uh, to not lose any iRating. But in the end, that doesn't really matter specifically, because if you're doing races that have, you know, more people, you're going to have higher strength of fields, and you don't have to worry about that. I was kind of in the mindset at the time of, you know, always getting the most iRating out of it every race that I could. So the biggest improvement I made was when learning not to push. Like, there's times where someone passes you and you're really trying to catch up to them. They are just faster and they probably have less tire wear at that point. So that's something that I've figured out and still am working on. But because, you know, sometimes you just, you know, like you think, oh, you know, I wasn't pushing too hard, I can push a little harder. And then you do for a while, and then eventually they just start pulling away from you because they are just being more consistent over the whole race than what you were. Some advice to, if you're stuck in iRating and unable to, you know, go any higher, you're stuck with safety rating, stop trying to force the speed. Focus on the fundamentals. You know, you want to focus on consistently and learn the racecraft, because the speed comes with all of those things, and that allows you to get more consistent, learn how to control the car, and if you're constantly gaining and losing iRating over and over, there's probably a racecraft issue somewhere. Like, if there's incidents that are happening, you always have to go back and look at it. What could I have done differently? Even if someone like did just crash into you, but there usually is something you could have done of earlier, like just let them by. That will save your race and allow you to not worry about it, and that eventually those people that are being over aggressive usually will come back to you. Really, the fastest way to gain iRating is actually just to be more consistent. Honestly, when I went through that, it was very frustrating, but that's probably what led to me being a better racer and now being able to push over 3K iRating. Is I started being more long term, because it kind of forced me how to rethink how I was racing. If you guys did like this video and you'd like more like this, like short racecraft tips, mistakes that I've made, oval racing advice, let me know below and put it in the comments. You know, I've definitely made enough mistakes like these and a lot more, and probably more coming. So I'm here to learn, help you guys learn, and hope that you guys like this. and like and subscribe at this point if you haven't. And I appreciate the time that you guys have taken. So have a wonderful day.